Hello, everybody. My name is Alexy and I'm the AI community architect at Neo4j, the graph database company. And here with us, we have Claire Sullivan, who used to be a developer relations, which is our team here. So really welcome to this Fika series.
Thank you, great to be here.
And you mentioned that actually started when you were there. So Fika is the tea time in Sweden. So this is supposed to be kind of informal, meet the person in AI series. So thank you for joining us. And you're a speaker at this Data Day Texas conference. We're here in Austin. And you're talking about the life as a freelance data scientist. So tell us a little bit about your career path, how you like what did you do at Neo4j and how now you are, your own data scientist?
Yeah, so my career has been kind of a random walk through technical fields. I am a PhD nuclear engineer. I started my career working on nuclear emergency response, homeland security type things just after 9/11, but my interests were always in data science, and that term didn't even exist then, but we called it signal processing at the time and things like this. And just throughout my career, I've, whether it's been in nuclear or in other areas, I've just always been working in data science. And when I went into commercial data science, I was working in machine learning at GitHub for a little while, and that's when I really hardcore got exposed to graphs and got very excited. And then I went from GitHub to the DevRel team at Neo, and I was the data science advocate for a little while, and that was a lot of fun. I really loved getting to work with Neo4j, with GDS, things like this. After that, I got into management for a little while, and then it was just time. I wanted to get to doing the stuff that I wanted to work on, and on who I wanted to work for and what types of things, and just the opportunity presented itself to start my own company, and I've been doing that ever since. A lot of work in Gen AI, which having the background from Neo has really set me up for.
This is amazing, right? And so you got to see the field before Gen AI and after Gen AI.
I feel really horrible for people who took some of my my nodes courses and whatnot, because I was assembling knowledge graphs before Gen AI existed, and it was painful. It was so much harder than it is today. And so when I was starting up my company and everybody wanted help with graphs and Gen AI, and I started looking at the tooling relative to what I had originally worked with, and oh my gosh, this would have been so much easier when I was developing that content to be able to work with the tooling that exists today.
Right. I mean, Gen AI definitely changed things, but I wonder, right? So graphs, now we are kind of sharing with them new audiences.
That's right.
But we knew about them before. So how do you see graphs kind of becoming this engine of AI? Why are they useful for those folks who are not really familiar?
I mean, this is the moment for graphs, right? I think there were always some really, really great use cases for graphs before Gen AI. But what Gen AI has done is just really highlighted the power of graphs as a formal first-class data structure. And so obviously we see graphs used for graph RAG, retrieval augmented generation within Gen AI. And there are other speakers at this conference who I remember last year very clearly showing some great results of what happens when you use you do your RAG with a vector database versus a graph database, and how much more accurate it was to use a graph database. And that had a pretty profound effect. I mean, as somebody who's worked in graphs for a while, that statement had a really profound effect on me. And so now my clients today, they're all really super interested in knowledge graphs and how do we, we're going to use graphs for our RAG and stuff like this. And they do work with vectors too, but that's one of the things that's so great about how Neo has evolved since Gen AI. Is with vector indices and things like this, it just it makes it such that you have everything you need in one spot.
Yes, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I come from CS background. I always work with graphs, and I come to a new DevRel team, and I think the hard problems are AI. How do we wrap our heads around AI? And then people tell me, actually, a lot of people don't know what graphs are.
Yeah.
They think graphs are charts. And if you ask, Google images for pictures of graphs, it gives you charts, pages of charts, right? So I wonder, in what ways new graphs are useful? So as practitioners, how do we educate developers and customers that graphs are useful? Like, what are your tools?
Honestly, for me, it started with educating myself and training myself that if I meant graph, I said graph. If I meant a pretty plot or something that I would put in a paper on a slide, I would say plot or figure. So, I mean, just that silly little change really does help. But, just helping people to understand how data is connected. And when you say that word connected, people start, you can see the little wheels turning and they start getting it more. So now we're talking not about necessarily, this person is connected to this person, but now in the Gen AI world, we're talking about this concept is connected to this other concept.
Yes.
And sure, we could bring in those people and other different, possible node types. But, when you start talking about just how we think about information as humans, how this gray matter works. And, I know that if I'm talking about physics, Newton is connected to Einstein. Those are people, okay? But I also know that there are concepts in physics that are connected. Quantum mechanics and quantum chromodynamics are connected concepts to each other. And so, when we as humans have our brains that think in connections just naturally, reminding people that, no, this is how your brain actually works, I think just is a bit of an unlock for them.
Absolutely. I tell people that everything is a graph.
Everything
Our
is
brain
a graph.
is a graph of neurons.
That's
our
right.
society is a graph of people.
That's right.
But I wonder, what do you think of this? So recently, I asked this question. Now, of course, everybody. And so I met the CTO of Common Crawl. This Common Crawl is the open source crawl of the web.
Right.
And so this was used to actually build all the LLMs. And it's a non-profit. So if you are out there, please donate to Common Crawl. It's very important, right? But they keep the infrastructure of knowledge going. And so he was, a veteran of the industries. He worked with graphs at previous places. When he asked him this, he said, you don't need to choose. So he had a graph at some point, which he needed to explain to customers who don't understand what graphs are. So he basically transformed it to a chart. If you want to sort, like let's say you want to have some ranking data from a graph, you just make a chart out of it. So you can have it both ways. Like if you think a graph is a chart, here's your chart.
Here's your chart.
But also there is a graph. So I wonder, so in your practice, do you select customers who understand what graphs are? Like, how do you pick and find fun things?
I was very fortunate. My very first client found me because she had actually taken one of my nodes classes. So very, very fortunate. But, most of them, they don't understand what a graph is. But because it's just part of how humans are hardwired, when you point it out to them, they really do kind of catch on quickly. And it doesn't mean that they necessarily understand the tooling, and that's why people like me are out there, is to help people along that journey and creating better products based off of graphs or other things. But it's really, I think, it's just the moment for graph right now.
Yes.
It's the time is just, it's very special right now.
No, this is great. And so, we're at this amazing conference and community. What do you like most about it?
Oh my gosh, I love this. This is definitely one of my favorite conferences. It's hard, and that's what makes it great, is because every single session there's 3 or 4 talks that I want to go to, and they conflict, and that it speaks to the quality of the presentations here. That day-to-day Texas, you show up to day-to-day Texas, and it is high information density all day long. There is no downtime.
Yes.
And it's exhausting, but you're meeting the people who are really out there doing the real stuff. Most of the presenters here, they tell it as it is. So you're not getting, the fluff. You're cutting straight to the heart of the matter. And there's some really brilliant people here. So I love coming to this conference.
This is my first time on the New Lynn Forever, and I'm really happy that I'm here and that we connected, and this is a big community. So I guess my last question is, we're in the same field, right? We want developers to adopt GraphRag and use open source. So what would be your advice to kind of developer relations folks back at Neo4j and all the people? How do we, together with you and other folks in the field, how do we popularize GraphRag? What are the best kind of ways for us to bring it to the people?
I think one of the biggest things I learned in joining the DevRel team, it was about meeting the users, the developers where they are, and bringing them along and bringing them just up that, helping them level up just a little bit. When I started on the DevRel team, I think I had this tendency of, oh my gosh, this really cool algorithm in GDS. Let's talk about that. But it was more about reaching out to the people who were not the experts in graphs and graph data science, and just becoming a part of the beginning portion of their journey, because once they're hooked there, then they become lifelong graphistas. And I think that was a really important thing that I learned on the DevRel team, and it's really helped me, including where I am today, running my own company. Of it's not about me getting in front. I can geek out with the rest of them and talk about all the nuances of the equation that gets used for the such and whatnot, but it's not about that. It's about helping people solve problems, and they're usually at the start of that process. So meeting them where they are.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for this advice. Looking forward to your talk and appreciate you speaking with us, and looking forward to more conversations.
Excellent. Thank you.